My sibling inadvertently made a group conversation public, revealing that our parents had been referring to me as the household ATM because I'd been paying for their retirement expenses for years. She's too clueless to realize we're taking advantage of her, they declared. In response, I severed all contact with them, but not before taking certain steps. It all began on a crisp autumn evening that felt like any other. A time when I believed my life was simply humming along despite the incessant demands of a family who saw me as nothing more than a walking ATM. I had always prided myself on my generosity, on the notion that love required sacrifice, but nothing could have prepared me for the moment my world was upended. It happened when my sibling inadvertently made a group conversation public. In that unexpected flash of digital truth, my parents' callous words were laid bare. They had been referring to me as the household ATM behind my back, mocking the fact that I'd been shouldering their retirement expenses for years. She's too clueless to realize we're taking advantage of her, they declared, and in that instant, a shockwave of betrayal reverberated through every fiber of my being. For as long as I could remember, I had been the glue that held the family together, a dependable provider whose willingness to sacrifice was seen as both a virtue and an open invitation for exploitation. I had offered support without hesitation, believing that my loyalty and financial backing were tokens of familial love. Yet, as I reread the messages that revealed my parents' true sentiments, a growing sense of revulsion replaced every shred of self-worth I had clung to. The realization that every dollar I had sent was nothing more than an instrument of their greed hit me like a tidal wave. In that moment, I knew I could no longer allow myself to be reduced to a mere bank account, a disposable resource to be drained without gratitude. That fateful night, with the digital evidence scrolling before my eyes, I resolved to sever all ties with the people who had manipulated my trust and exploited my love. However, I understood that an abrupt departure would leave me exposed to regret and further vulnerability. I needed a plan, one that would reclaim my dignity and ensure that my actions would resonate with those who had wronged me. I began by meticulously saving every incriminating message, every call, every snippet of conversation that testified to their betrayal. Night after night, I combed through old emails, texts, and voice messages, slowly assembling a dossier that was as much an inventory of my sacrifices as it was a chronicle of their deceit. I remember the tumult of emotions that followed, a swirling cocktail of sorrow, anger, and an unexpected spark of determination. The notion of revenge was alien to me, a concept that clashed with my lifelong belief in forgiveness and reconciliation. Yet as the full measure of my exploitation became clear, I recognized that self-respect required boundaries, and that sometimes the most profound act of love was to refuse to be taken for granted. I began to reassert control over my finances. With painstaking care, I transferred a substantial portion of the funds I had once sent without question into new accounts, inaccessible, to the grasp of those who had treated my hard-earned money as theirs by right. Every transaction was executed with precision, erasing any trace that could allow them to siphon off my resources. This reallocation wasn't just about money. It was a declaration of independence, a symbolic cutting of the umbilical cord that had long tethered me to a life of self-sacrifice. At the same time, I embarked on a journey of self-rediscovery. I rekindled old friendships and invested time in hobbies that brought genuine joy, activities I had long neglected in favor of meeting the endless demands of my family. I began exploring new career opportunities that promised personal fulfillment over financial obligation. Slowly, the days started to take on new meaning. Each small victory, a successful project at work, an evening spent immersed in a long-forgotten book, the simple act of saying no without guilt, became a building block in the reconstruction of my identity. I was gradually learning that my worth was not determined by the depths of my bank account, but by the strength of my convictions and the integrity of my spirit. Even as I reclaimed my life piece by piece, the sting of betrayal lingered like a shadow in the back of my mind. There were nights when I would lie awake, haunted by memories of forced laughter at family gatherings, of empty promises of support when I needed them most. In those quiet, painful moments, I began to write, filling journal pages with the raw details of my experience. Every word I penned was a step toward understanding that the betrayal I had endured was not a measure of my inadequacy, but rather a reflection of their own moral bankruptcy. The act of writing became my catharsis, a way to process the anguish and transform it into a source of strength. Eventually, I decided to share fragments of my journey on a well-known online forum, a place where personal stories of triumph over betrayal resonated with thousands of strangers. I wasn't seeking revenge or sympathy. I simply needed to articulate the chaos that had upended my world. The response was overwhelming. Strangers from all walks of life reached out, sharing their own tales of familial manipulation and exploitation. In their stories, I found validation and a sense of community that bridged the isolation I had felt for so long. It became clear that I was not alone in this struggle. Many had been forced to confront the harsh reality that sometimes those we love can also be our greatest detractors. With this digital community bolstering my resolve, I took the next step, confronting the remnants of my old life. I sent a carefully crafted message to my parents, a message that was neither venomous nor pleading, but resolute and unwavering. I detailed how their actions had eroded the trust that should have been the foundation of our relationship, explaining that every dollar I had sent was not a symbol of love, but a testament to their exploitation. My words were measured yet firm. A farewell and a declaration of independence rolled into one. I made it unequivocally clear that I would no longer allow myself to be treated as an inexhaustible resource or as a safety net for irresponsible behavior. Their response was scant, mere curt messages that offered no genuine apology, no recognition of the damage done. In that silence, I found liberation. I realized that I had reclaimed control of my own narrative, that my worth was not for them to define. The sting of their betrayal had metamorphosed into a catalyst for personal empowerment. I began to see the severance of our ties not as an act of cruelty, but as a necessary step toward reclaiming my identity and building a future on my own terms. As the months turned into a year, the transformation in my life became even more profound. My newfound independence led me to travel, explore new cultures, and immerse myself in experiences that had once seemed out of reach. I found solace in art and music, spending long hours in galleries and concert halls where the beauty of creative expression helped to mend the fractures of my past. Every new experience reminded me that the world was filled with wonder, and that my life, once defined solely by sacrifice, could be reinvented as a vibrant tapestry of meaningful encounters and authentic connections. I began documenting these adventures on a blog that slowly attracted a dedicated following. My writing, unfiltered and raw, resonated with readers who had faced similar betrayals or felt trapped by the expectations of their families. Sharing my journey became both a form of healing and a way to inspire others to take control of their own narratives. In quiet corners of online communities, I discovered kindred spirits who, like me, had chosen to rise above the constraints of their past. Our shared vulnerability forged bonds that transcended digital boundaries, and through these interactions, I learned that reclaiming one's identity is a collective endeavor fueled by empathy and mutual support. The creative impulse that had been buried beneath layers of obligation began to emerge with renewed vigor. I started writing a memoir, a candid, unvarnished account of betrayal, struggle, and eventual triumph. Each chapter was a cathartic release, an honest exploration of my vulnerabilities and the painful lessons learned along the way. Through the act of writing, I was forced to confront my past, to acknowledge my mistakes, and to forgive not only those who had wronged me, but also myself for the moments of self-doubt. I came to understand that forgiveness was not about erasing the pain, but about liberating myself from the perpetual cycle of bitterness that had once held me captive. There were days when I would revisit the old group chat, scrolling through digital relics of a life that had defined my every move. Each message, though painful, served as a reminder of how far I had come. I remembered the forced laughter, the hollow promises, and the countless moments when I had set aside my own needs in the name of familial duty. In those memories, I found a paradoxical source of strength, a testament to my endurance and the resilience that had carried me through. The scars remained, etched deep within my soul, but over time, They transformed into symbols of survival, each one a quiet badge of honor marking the battles I had fought and won. I also sought professional guidance to help navigate the labyrinth of emotions left in the wake of my family's betrayal. Therapy sessions became a sanctuary where I could unravel the tangled threads of my past and learn to build a future founded on self-respect. In those sessions, I learned that while my generosity was a gift, it had also been exploited by those who never truly appreciated its value. I learned to set firm boundaries and to recognize that self-worth is not measured by how much one gives, but by the courage to say enough when the cost becomes too high. Today, as I look back on that life-shattering autumn evening, I see it not as the end, but as the beginning of a transformative journey. I now live a life defined not by the endless demands of others, but by my own passions, dreams, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing I am in control of my destiny. Every morning brings a renewed sense of purpose, a reminder that I am more than a resource to be exploited, but a person with dreams, hopes, and the power to shape my own future. In the silent moments before dawn or in the calm after a long day, I reflect on the lessons that betrayal taught me. That true freedom comes not from the absence of pain, but from the courage to rebuild oneself despite it. As the days turned into months and the months into years, I ventured further into a life of authenticity. I traveled to distant lands, each journey a discovery of new cultures, ideas, and perspectives that enriched my understanding of what it means to truly live. I immersed myself in the arts, attended live performances, and even took up painting, a hobby that allowed me to express emotions that words could scarcely capture. I found that creativity was a powerful antidote to the lingering bitterness of the past, a way to transform wounds into works of beauty. In every brushstroke and every note of a long-forgotten melody, I reclaimed a piece of the self that had been lost in the relentless demands of a family that once treated me as nothing more than an endless resource. Along this journey of rediscovery, I also became a mentor to others who had experienced similar betrayals. I volunteered at community centers, sharing my story with young adults who were grappling with issues of self-worth and familial exploitation. In these moments, I realized that my struggle had not been in vain. It had become a beacon of hope for those who felt powerless in the face of abuse. I learned that even the deepest wounds could become sources of strength, guiding us toward a future where we define our own value and live on our own terms. Now, as I continue to build this new chapter of my life, I carry with me the memory of that fateful evening, a memory that serves as a constant reminder of how far I've come. The betrayal, the heartbreak, and the subsequent journey of transformation have all woven together into a narrative that is uniquely mine. Every scar is a lesson, every setback a stepping stone, and every victory a reminder that I possess the strength to overcome even the most devastating of betrayals. I share my story not out of bitterness or a desire for revenge, but as a testament to the power of resilience, the importance of self-respect, and the beauty of forging a future that is truly one's own.